Hull Forest Products began in a Rhode Island backyard in the 1960s when company founder William Boston Hull purchased 12 acres of hardwoods when he was just 15 years old. Hull went on to earn a degree in forestry at the University of New Hampshire, then got his start in the lumber business with an old-fashioned circular sawmill, transforming white oak into barrel staves. In 1970, Hull incorporated and moved to Pomfret, Connecticut. His tiny operation grew to be the largest sawmill and forest land management service in southern New England and the first to become FSC certified. Today, the 3 Hull children are involved in the family business, which continues to expand, manufacturing green forest products and practicing sustainable forestry. The best way to get a full appreciation for the scope of the Hull Forest Products operation is to start from the beginning. The first step in forest management is for the forester to meet with the landowner and establish their goals for the property. Common goals are to improve the health of the forest, generate income for the landowner, produce firewood, create wildlife habitat, and improve recreational access. The forester writes a management plan to implement the stewardship goals. For example, the plan may suggest that some low-quality, thinner diameter, or sickly trees be selectively harvested in order to allow more sunlight to fall on the better quality trees, improving their growth.
We're trying to remove the lower quality, unhealthy, poor-formed trees, trying to grow the better-formed, more valuable wood, trying to encourage growth in those. And we'll pick out one tree like this. Sometimes in areas where it'd be thick to a bunch of low quality trees, we'll take a group of them, and that'll not only allow the trees around it to grow, but it also opens up a hole for sunlight to get to start the regeneration or allow what's growing on the ground to start to get a grasp of the sun.
If a harvest is planned, the landowner is given an estimate of the volumes of the different species to be removed and their stumpage value. The forester marks and tallies the trees to be harvested, lays out the paths on which the machines will travel through the woodlot, and marks any wetland areas or stream crossings.
We have a coating of our flagging so the logger knows what it means. When I tie blue and yellow ribbon together and also write SC, it stands for stream crossing, so the logger can easily identify it.
The forester presents a cutting plan to the appropriate state forester for review. If the state official finds that the plan meets standards and requirements, the harvest is allowed to begin. The forester meets with the logger, who will conduct the harvest, and walks the lot, looking at the wood to be harvested. Together, they identify haul roads, crossings, and any other areas needing special protection, such as old stone walls, cellar holes, and other cultural artifacts unique to the property. The logger then begins the job of cutting, hauling, piling, and sometimes loading the wood. Upon completion of the job, the logger grades out any disturbed areas and installs water bars to stabilize the main haul roads. This facilitates recreational access and ensures the roads can be used again in a future harvest.
I really had to look to see where the trees were eliminated. It was so well done, just incredible. So I didn't have a sense that the woods had been touched.
In addition to over 20,000 acres of client forest land, Hull foresters manage the Hull Family Forest Land, a working landscape of Forest Stewardship Council, FSC, certified forests across southern New England that has been permanently protected from development through the company's partnerships with the Nature Conservancy, Norcross Wildlife Foundation, and many other environmental organizations and agencies. In 2000, the Environmental Protection Agency presented Hull Forest Products with an Environmental Merit Award for its pioneering role in the largest private land protection project in the history of Massachusetts, where the majority of the Hull forest lands are located. Today, Massachusetts is the 8th most forested state in the nation, with many towns in western Massachusetts having over 90% forest cover. Working forests like the Hull forest lands form the backbone of New England's rural character, and they provide public benefits such as open space, plant and wildlife habitat, enhanced air and water quality, carbon sequestration, and recreational opportunity. Hull Forest Products is proud to be a good steward to the land and actively seeks out new forest conservation projects each year. From the landing, the harvested wood is trucked to a mill to be sawn into lumber. In some cases, hardwood and softwood pulpwood, lesser quality wood used to make chips or paper, is ground on site into wood chips and trucked directly from the forest to the recipient. As logs are trucked into the Hull Forest Products mill yard, they are unloaded and grouped by species. The log scaler staples a bar-coded tag to each log and enters the species, grade, and volume into the inventory with the aid of a handheld computer. Before logs enter the mill, the ends are washed to remove any dirt that might dull the saws. Next, the bark is peeled from the logs with a ring debarker. The bark is immediately ground beneath the debarker and conveyed to the bark pile, where it will compost for the season before being reground, aerated again, and sold as wholesale and retail landscape mulch. After debarking, the logs proceed through a metal detector. Any logs that contain metal are kicked out of the mill so they do not damage the saws. Large or high-quality logs are processed on the Ban head rig saw. This machine has computer scanning and a thin kerf for optimum yields. Smaller or low-grade logs are processed on the circle mill. The circle mill produces mostly railroad ties and very few boards. There is zero wood waste from the mill. Any sawdust or wood scrap is screened or chipped into byproducts for animal bedding, playground surfacing, or wood fuel. Wood chips, created as a byproduct of the lumber manufacturing process, are burned to produce steam, to heat the mill's buildings and operate its dry kilns. Hull Forest Products is also a leading wholesaler of wood chips to meet the heating and energy needs of colleges, schools, and businesses that utilize biomass. The company's wood chip production replaces the use of over 200,000 barrels of oil each year with sustainably harvested, locally produced renewable biomass energy. The flow of lumber and squares from both head rigs is directed to a number of different machine centers. The resaw takes square cants from the mills and saws them into boards and smaller pallet cants, used to make wood pallets. The edger removes the round edges from boards, and the trimmer makes 1 or 2 board solutions based on grade and length. When the milling is complete, the boards find their way to the green chain, where inspectors assign a final grade. The lumber is then sorted by grade, thickness, length, and sometimes width. Packs with stickers between layers are bound for the dry kilns. Packs without stickers are sold as green or undried. Stickered packs from the mill are end waxed to prevent rapid moisture loss from the ends of the boards, then sent to the air yard where they will temporarily air dry. When an empty kiln becomes available, it will be loaded with a single thickness and species of wood, as drying schedules vary based on product. All the kilns are outfitted with the latest in computer controls and variable frequency drives. When a kiln is unloaded, the lumber is de-stickered on the double-end trim. Here, any degrades, such as end splits, are trimmed off, and the lumber is again regraded and repacked. Heavy-duty steel export strapping is used on these bundles before storing them in the warehouse. As a primary producer, Hull Forest Products is able to tailor its production to fit the individual needs of clients. HFP supplies a variety of FSC and non-FSC wood products, including green and kiln-dried lumber, pallet stock, railroad ties, flooring, paneling, wood siding, and wood fuel for heating. Markets for the 10 million board feet produced annually by HFP are 60% domestic, 40% export, with much of the lumber sold to manufacturers in the U.S., Canada, Europe, Russia, and Southeast Asia. All of the timber sawn by HFP is grown in the northeastern United States, a forestry region renowned worldwide for wood with tight grain and beautiful color.
Hull helped us make the decision on getting the species. The hard oak is on the main floor where all the traffic is, and then on the other 2 floors, the second floor and the third floor, we've got wide board, incredibly beautiful eastern white pine.